Succession, population, ecology. Carrying capacity. Carrying capacity is the amount of organisms in an ecosystem that it is able to hold. In this graph, it shows the number of organisms increasing and decreasing over the years. In the first point, the birth rate is higher than the death rate. The number of organisms is increasing, leading the population to increase. In the second point, the graph shows a straight line, which means it is staying consistent and it has reached the most organisms in the ecosystem. In the last point on the graph, it is decreasing. This means that the organisms are dying and that the ecosystem will have no more organisms living in it. What causes carrying capacity? One of the biggest factors that contribute to carrying capacity is a limiting factor. A limiting factor is anything that limits the size or population, for example, abundance, sustainability, and competition for food. Biotic factors are living things that need water and food for survival. For example, grass, flowers, humans, and animals. On the other hand, abiotic factors are the non-living things like water, wind, lightning, and rocks, and they do not need food to survive. Biodiversity is the variety of life in a world or in a particular habitat or ecosystem. In this example, we have different types of colors of pom-poms, which symbolize all the different organisms in an ecosystem. Low biodiversity is bad for your ecosystem because if something comes along and kills one of your species, you won't have any other species to depend on. In this instance, if blue dies, you will only have one species, and that is not a good ecosystem. This is a model representing high biodiversity. It is good for your ecosystem because if one of your species die, you will still have others to depend on. For example, if all the pink species die, you still have many other options to rely from. Low biodiversity. Primary succession is when a new organism establishes a home and starts breaking down the rock from the volcano to make soil. The first organism to establish a home is lichen. This is the first species, called the pioneer species. The next species to move on into the ecosystem is flowers. They can be used for the next organisms to pollinate. Next is grasses. Since the soil is now developing, the roots can start getting bigger and prepare for next organisms. Now we can add the trees. Since there is more soil, the trees will hold on to the ground and spread their roots. Now we can add different types of animals because there will be plenty of food and a sustainable environment for survival. At last, we have a biodiverse ecosystem. Primary Secondary succession is when a climax community is struck by a natural disaster and slowly starts to break down and disappear. A tornado comes by and sweeps up all the trees, and they're all struck by lightning. To come with it, the flowers go, and the lichen is taken down by the wind. A week later, a volcano comes and melts down the whole island, and there's no more living organisms in the ecosystem. Second Predator versus prey. In the first point, when the predator population is low but there is a lot of prey for them to eat, the population will increase because they have a lot of food. In the second point, we can see that there's too much of the predators. The predator's population is decreasing because there's no more food for them to share and eat. In the third point, when the predator's population drops, the prey starts to come back. This is what a healthy predator versus prey relationship looks like.